Good evening. Call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let the record show that all board members are present. Approval of the agenda. Mr. Bartz, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes tonight.
May I have
move the
a,
agenda.
I'll second that.
all right, all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Number 2, public comment. Ms. Ward, are there any members of the public here for public comment?
There are no members of the general public on Zoom. We might have one in person. No, she's here in her capacity as a reporter. There's none.
Thank you. Moving on to community reports. Let's start with school district. Dr. Holman.
Thank you so very much. Beginning with the Snowline Joint Unified School District report, really three things have been the focus over the summer, and I think they're, it's success, safety, as well as supports. And specific to success, we have summer school up and operational. It's for students who have those most significant needs, and so we're targeting those students across our entire system at all schools for summer school for brief times, 4 to 6 weeks, to ensure that they can experience success. And when we talk about safety, I want you all to know that we're engaged over the course of the summer and probably into the beginning of the school year, engaged in a significant comprehensive safety audit. Our risk management director, you know him, Robert Chacon, as well as I think you know our school police chief, Todd Espindola. They are partnering with experts from our Risk Management Joint Powers Authority to ensure that we go through our entire school district, schools and departments to determine safety and security needs. Credit to our board members, they've allocated over $1 million for safety upgrades to ensure that we meet the safety standard that we want here in Snowline, as indicated by our experts that I just mentioned. So look for more information on that forthcoming as we go through that process over the course of the summer. And then thirdly, a major focus for us over the coming year, but we're engaged in it right now, and that's finalizing our health and wellness plan. We've had a collaborative effort across many individuals working to establish a much more robust health and wellness effort throughout the school district, more specifically to address the mental health and social emotional needs of students as well as staff members. I think we all know, we've seen the statistics. Prior to the pandemic, it's only gotten worse. I won't go into those details right now, but I think we understand the research too, that when kids, of course, as well as staff members are in better places from a mental health and social emotional standpoint, success certainly occurs at a much greater rate. And so we're just thrilled to be allocating our times to a very important effort, I think, here in Snowline, so that we get back to that success that I mentioned. And then I'll just end real quickly with, first of all, a word of thanks to the CSD. I just greatly appreciate what you did for one of your former directors, Charlie Johnson, last weekend. Beautiful, beautiful memorial that was held in here, not to mention, of course, the Mass up at the Catholic Church. I think it's not lost on any of you. He was an important individual here in this community. When we think about Snowline, at least when I consider Charlie, relative to Snowline, I'll just have to say real quickly, boy, he had a servant's heart. He loved to control that service, and as I said to Kathy over there, she was part and is just always a part of so many things here in the community, particularly Angel Street. I think there's no truth to the rumor that he wanted to change that, and control it and have it be called Charlie's Angels. That's not, I think, true there. But what is true is he loved controlling the whole notion of giving of his heart. And specific to Snowline, I just want to go back real quickly. I think about 7, 8 years, Luke Ontiveros and I, when he was a superintendent, I was a deputy, and we said we needed to engage the community, and we needed to get the community cabinet up and going. And while we always took on all comers, we said we needed a few people to make it happen, and Charlie was certainly the top of that list. And Charlie was always there for us in Snowline. He was always there for all the adults to ensure that we were serving those kids in the best of ways. And so I just want all of you to know how much we appreciate his efforts. I know it's not lost on any of you in here, and just wanted to say publicly that that servant's heart that I told Cherry about on Friday, that servant's heart was really incredible. And we're going to miss that, but his legacy is really powerful, and we're grateful for that legacy here in Snowline. So I thank you very much for letting me share what I did, and thank you for doing what you do here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question. I've seen some chatter on Facebook, and so I was wondering if you could help the public out with the situation of school needing to start early and where we stand in that situation.
It's such a great question. So Senate Bill 328 was put into effect, I think, about 3 years ago, and it's due to be enacted this coming school year. Now, we in Snowline have a rural exemption or a waiver, so we will not be changing our start times for this coming year. Now, I can share with you, our board members are interested in modifying our times, but what Senate Bill 328 requires of schools that are non-rural is that all middle schools cannot start any earlier than 8 o'clock in California, and high schools cannot start any earlier than 8:30. Now, again, getting back to Snowline and what the board has shared with me, is I told them we need at least a year for us to get, well, dare I say, through the pandemic, or at least further along in the pandemic. And over the course of this year, we will not change our times, but they are interested in looking at maybe modifying those times. And so stay tuned for that. I so appreciate you bringing that up, but no change to this school year. I've certainly put that out. I'll continue to put that out because I know that that in these surrounding school districts, like Hesperia already changed theirs over the course of just this last year. They did that a year in advance of what's required, and it's required for all schools that are non-rural, and we did get that rural exemption.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're certainly welcome, and thank you for letting me speak all the time here.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank
No?
you.
All right.
Yeah. And next
Thank
time
you
I'll
so
try to
much.
remember to turn this on. Thank you.
All right. And I don't see any other.
We have
Oh.
Kimberly Messon with Supervisor Cook's office.
Excellent. Hi, Kimberly. How are you this evening?
Hi, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome, and I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Again, my name is Kimberly Messon. I'm here on behalf of Samuel Shu. He's actually on vacation this week, so I told him I'd cover for him, and I'm going to keep my update very brief. On June 14th, the Board of Supervisors did approve the 2022-2023 recommended budget. I did want to highlight two things on here. It's very long, but I thought they would be of great importance to the community. So our code enforcement, and we're going to actually be bumping up our budget towards our code enforcement team. We've seen a huge increase in, obviously marijuana grows and abatement. So there's going to be funds allocated towards their enhancement and support to our code enforcement department, as well as roughly $26.9 million for community concerns reserve. These funds go towards crime suppression, marijuana enforcement, addressing illegal snow play, and traffic operations. And just as a comparison, last year's budget allocated roughly $5 million to community concerns. And in that time frame, we saw positive outcomes, and the board saw the importance and the need to continue allocating more funding in this year's budget to continue addressing the concerns that the community has brought to each board supervisor. So just very briefly wanted to highlight those two things. I also did just want to extend my condolences to Charlie's family, friends, and colleagues. When we came into the office last year, Charlie was one of the first people who gave me a call back and was just filling me in on the chamber, on the CSD, the community as a whole, and was always very kind to our staff and easy to talk to. And having community members, they'd reach out to Charlie, and Charlie would connect them to us if they needed assistance. So we do apologize we cannot make his service, but we did want to extend our condolences because he really was an amazing person, and we're very thankful to have known him in the time frame that we were in office. That is it for my update though, and I'm more than happy to take any questions if anyone has any questions for me.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Nope. All right, no questions. Thank you so much for being here. All right, moving on to 3A consent items. Does anyone have any items they would like to pull? No. All right. Do I have a motion
I'll move the item.
and a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. And since I don't see anyone here, though, I would like to point out consent item 3E, adoption of resolution 2022-22, appreciation for the contributions made by Charlie Johnson as a member of the Board of Directors. And we have this resolution plaque right here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 4, there were no matters removed from consent items. So we will move on to 6A, discussion and possible action regarding replacement of vacant board seat. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you. It's obvious that we have to do something with the vacancy left by Charlie Johnson. And there's a process and some decisions that need to be made by the board. Attorney Kennedy will walk the board through what your different options are. There's different time frames involved, and I'd like to turn this over to Steve Kennedy at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Bartz and Madam President, members of the board. Condolences to everyone regarding the passing of Director Johnson. Obviously a significant force on the board and in the community. So condolences to everyone. I certainly enjoyed all the years I have had the opportunity to work for him as well as everyone with the district. So included in the agenda materials is a memorandum that I prepared regarding the process for filling that vacancy. The first step is to notify the registrar's office within 15 days, and I understand from Ms. Ward that that has already been done. So the board has a 60-day period of time in which to fill the vacancy. If the vacancy is not filled within that 60-day period, then the Board of Supervisors can also fill the vacancy. Director Johnson's seat on the board was already scheduled to expire following the election in November. So that's obviously a factor for the board to consider as well in deciding whether or not to take action to fill that seat, to appoint someone to fill the vacancy, or to push it on the Board of Supervisors, or to possibly hold off on doing anything until the election in November. If the board was inclined to move forward with an appointment, then again, you would have 60 days in which to do that. What you would need to do would be to post a notice of the vacancy in 3 conspicuous places within the district for a period of 15 days before you would have the ability to move forward with an appointment. So with that, my memorandum is in the agenda materials, and I'll be glad to try and answer any questions that the board may have.
All right, any questions?
I don't have any questions other than we can just leave this alone, right, Steve? I think unless somebody else has questions, I think we all would have the same consensus. Not speaking for anybody though.
I agree. I would rather just let the election happen and go that route.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, if that is the inclination of the board, maybe just that that some outreach be made to the Board of Supervisors to determine whether or not they would want to make an appointment, or if they could also be agreeable to moving forward to just letting it stay vacant until the election in November.
I think we have their blessing as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is Kim. I reached out to Supervisor Cook's office to let them know that our board was considering leaving it open until the election. And I was told by Dakota Higgins, who works for Supervisor Cook, that unless our board requested that the Board of Supervisors appoint somebody, that they would just leave it alone through the election.
okay.
So Steve, you see no issue in, I know some of this is calling for an election, 130 days, this kind of thing. That would put us right to the next election. So there's no problem in just waiting that you see.
No, there isn't any problem with that. The 130 days, kind of an interesting clause, and that would apply if we were in the first half of Director Johnson's term, and it would have butted right up to that 130-day period as to whether or not the appointment that the board would have made if it was during the first half of that term.
Okay.
If there was, whether that person that been appointed would serve until the next election or the remainder of that term. But because the remainder of the term actually expires in November, I don't see any problem with the board just leaving it vacant and letting the next general district election occur for that seat in November.
Okay.
Very good.
So I think we're all in agreement on that then. We still need a motion and a vote on this item? Okay, so do
No.
it.
No,
No?
just that we don't want to do anything.
Okay,
It's consensus, I would assume.
That's correct.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to 6B, discussion and possible action regarding committee assignments. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you. As a result of Charlie Johnson's passing, several committee vacancies were created. In order for the committees to meet, there must be a quorum of 2 directors. The president of the board reviews the committee appointments and can make changes if desired or necessary. Once a new director is seated, these assignments may change, thus making these appointments temporary. Additionally, a review of the committee assignments customarily takes place in January of each year, whereby the appointments may change again. And attached is a list of all of the standing committees and the ad hoc committee that the district has, along with the roles and responsibilities for each one. And staff is recommending that the board president suggest making some appointments to the committees.
Okay, thank you. I would like to appoint Director Hoffman to join me on the park committee if she so is inclined. All right, we only have 2 meetings left before we would vote and then change anyway.
Yeah.
So if that's okay, and
Thank
then I would ask Director Roberts if it's all right if I join you on the finance committee to finish out the year?
That will be fine.
All right. And then for the adjudication, I think we could probably just leave that
Strike it.
alone at this time, correct?
Just strike it, right?
That's correct.
Great,
Unless something changes.
all right. And then we don't need a motion or a vote for that either?
You're the boss.
I'm the, well, okay. I should say something really cool like, so shall I say it, so shall it be done? Yeah, right. You know, the king and
So
I.
it shall be.
So it shall be, right? Very cute. All right. Okay, moving on to 6C, discussion and possible action regarding general manager evaluation process. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you. I'm going to punt this one right back to the board, since it's my evaluation.
All right, so for this one, we're just determining the process of the evaluation again, so we just need to decide if we like to stick with the way we've been doing it, where we fill out the evaluation, give it to Ms. Ward, and she compiles all of the information.
That would be how it goes. However, I would like to add something if everybody's in agreement.
Yeah.
See what everybody thinks. We all know Don's gonna retire one of these days. I don't know when that's gonna be, but we kind of need a succession plan for him too. I just want to know what his goals are. Next 5 years, what's his goals? What does he want to see get done? Completed.
So have that as part of his self-analysis?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have some fairly major projects, 4, maybe 5 now, in addition to the normal things that are in the strategic plan. So I'd be happy to prepare some information on that for the board to consider as part of the evaluation.
Yeah, and just how you want to leave the district, I guess, is what I want to also hear. When that time comes.
Well, I'd like to leave not quite yet. But,
I said when the time
Are you
comes.
holding the door?
It's this open. Thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything else? You're okay with
I'm
that?
good with that, yeah.
All right.
I like that idea.
Do we need to vote on that one too? We're all right, we're moving
Oh.
along.
I like that.
No, it's just a consensus again to use
Consensus.
this form.
Got it. All right, so we move on to 6D, update on the proposed Civic Center and Phelan Park. Mr. Bart.
George is going to be handling this one. He is fully prepared.
I believe I am. A couple of weeks ago, the Fish and Wildlife had their second meeting on the Joshua trees. It pretty much came out to a 2-2 tie. Their plan was to bring it back in October for a conservation plan. We were still left unsure what was going to happen between now and October, but there was a statement that was released for the region from the senior environmental scientists with California Department of Fish and Wildlife that the species will remain a candidate and protected under the California Endangered Species Act. And during this period, the incidental take permits, the ITPs, are not on hold and can be issued when approved. Now, this doesn't really affect our Civic Center project, the Phase 1. It does impact Phase 3, which is the park. There was a meeting we had with K2A and the engineers, as well as Stino and the environmental, Randy Arnold. And it was debatable on what protections we had in place for the Joshua trees on the Phase 1 for the Civic Center. There is going to be some earthwork done from the Phase 3, Phase 4 site to build up the pad on the Civic Center. It was going from 10 feet radius to 40 feet up to 158 feet, which we think is there's no way that that's possible. There's a lot of projects that are being handled or processed in a high desert that are within 10 feet. So we're moving forward, going through the county and having Randy Arnold issue the ITP permitting. And that'll take probably a couple months before we send it over to the state and they review it. Again, that's for the Phase 3. It kind of touches on Phase 1. We don't think it's going to impact Phase 1. A lot of the plans have been submitted, and we've been waiting for responses on the submittals from the second to third plan check. It's slow go with the county on the Civic Center. Street improvement plans, we did receive comments, very minor, and those should be completed. Edison, it's a little complicated, and we're dealing with our planner, our consultant, and the county on that. And SEEK was another issue that we're not really clear on where we're at with on a status for that. With that being said, there isn't much more to report for the Civic Center. For the park, we did meet with K2A on a proposal to move forward with the design, at least to get it through the county for permitting as far as a CUP. We're waiting for the proposals from the consultants so they can bring it back to the district and bring it to the board for approval. If that is the appetite of the board. With that being said, I have nothing more to report. Except maybe just one. Because the building is more than 10,000 square feet, this is the first time that Stino's really had to deal with the Green Energy Commission, and that is just a standard report for permitting and construction. That's your typical conservation, lighting, all these, the plans that deal with a building of this size. So we're about a 14,000 square foot for the Civic Center. So we gotta kind of process that permitting through. Could take a couple weeks to prepare. We submit that to the county as part of the package. That's an easy permitting. Then we get into the construction. That's all I got.
All right.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, but if we get this grant that we have to match, what's that for again?
That's for the park, and that's for identified components in the park. And yes, depending on what happens with the Joshua trees, it could impact grant performance with the area that we submitted for development.
We can't work around that?
While the Joshua trees is attractive to the state on the conservation of those trees for the park. Land conservation, it was something that they really liked. We're still waiting on the awarding of these grants, and they say they need a couple more months. We thought it was going to be at the end of June, and now we're looking at maybe July, August, even September. So they're still not quite sure when they'll be able to release the awards of these grants.
Yeah, which we're hoping that will extend the performance timeframe window. So there will be final action on how the Joshua tree is listed. And if it is endangered, what the setbacks are. So then we can look at possibly redesigning the project if that's feasible.
Okay, thank you.
Come back to me.
I thought you said that they were just still reviewing it, but you were able to apply for dealing with some trees. Isn't that what you said?
We're protecting the trees,
So-
most of the trees, not all
Well,
the
so
trees.
my question was, if you can move a tree, you can apply for a permit to move a tree, but you don't know what the outcome is, and we changed it so it was only a couple of trees. Why not do that now?
Apply to move them?
Now, if you can do it, why not do it now?
And-
Why wait?
And that was a question that was brought up in our meeting with Randy Arnold. That is an option, and he says, we have until the ruling in October. I mean, it could be another extension on what they want to do with that. They might not even accept the conservation plan. But that was discussed as, let's move the trees now. Now, we're dealing with the county. That's much easier than dealing with the state. So that is kind of the direction that K2A would like to see, and they're kind of spearheading that movement in moving the trees.
Because we went through a couple of meetings on, it was down to just a couple.
And it
And
was-
so I don't see why you wouldn't move ahead ASAP. In other words, you don't have to do any dirt work movement yet. You know where they are. All you have to do is get them surveyed in.
Yeah.
My understanding was it's a little bit more complicated than that because we were going to be leaving quite a few trees in the park. And if they do come back with, 148-foot clearance around the trees,
That's what they say.
yeah, any trees left in the park, we would have to account for. And so we would have to move all of them right now.
Well, it would destroy all growth because if it has to be 148 feet away in a 2.5 acre lot, that's the end of the lot.
That's
So-
correct.
Well, what happened to the 40 feet?
Well, what happened to the 10 feet? So that's
Yeah.
Yeah,
the direction
that
we're
too.
going with the 10 foot.
Well, we know that there are currently a couple of trees that no matter what, we would have to deal with.
That's correct.
And we don't know what the ruling will be, and yes, if it's 140 feet, you can scratch the whole plan, or figure out a way to move them all, I don't know, but I would think just see about applying to move the few trees that we know we need to get, like the one near the bathroom.
Yes, and the Joshua tree that sits over here on Warbler Road.
Yeah,
that's
there's a
gonna
couple,
impact the
there are a
grading.
couple
Yeah,
that are,
there's a
so,
few scattered. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, you know.
The 100 and some feet protection, I think Randy Arnold's being overstepping on that rule, because it was mentioned that we couldn't do anything with this project if
it
that
would
was the
shut
case.
everything
It
down
would.
in this
With-
area.
Without mitigation. I mean, there is mitigation to that. So that's where the ITP kind of comes in. And they'll tell, the
Anyways.
state will tell us what to do with
It
that.
was just a thought while you were talking. So,
Yes.
Oh, that's a good idea. Deborah?
I really hope they come back with 10 feet.
Yeah.
That 148 would mean really the entire area, nobody be able to build even here. Yeah.
We're submitting the plan at 10 feet. Well,
Okay.
so they'll come back and say, no, that's not feasible, then 40 feet would be that option. But K2A and the engineer, as well as Stino, are looking at, closely at moving and relocating these trees.
have they identified the mitigation?
And you mean by,
For moving trees?
there's,
I mean-
there's a moving and there's a cost.
I know, but has that been consecrated yet?
No, we just know which trees are in play for
I think they already
relocation.
have their idea of what you have to do that.
The state, the
yes.
state has not put forth what the mitigation will be if you have to move trees to do anything. So
No.
they haven't committed to that yet, so
No,
you don't
they
really
haven't.
know.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
We're
sir.
all blind.
All the more to submit now.
Yikes.
Money, money, money.
What nightmare is it?
All right, moving on to 6E, update on the status of negotiations with Sheep Creek Water. Mr. Bartz.
Yeah, thank you. Tomorrow, we have a meeting with the state, one of the many meetings, talking about the funding, what they're proposing. There was some language that came out, and it labeled partial funding that we saw in a document. So we want to know exactly what that partial funding means, you know, if it was just used improperly or if they have a different idea of what they're proposing. So we're going to hopefully get that hammered out tomorrow. We've got a meeting on July 23rd, our community meeting, to bring the information out to the community. So we have the flyers prepared to send out to all of our residents and all of the Sheep Creek customers also. But we are waiting until after the meeting tomorrow to send those out to see if there's any changes on the documentation that we've prepared for the information for the meeting. So we're still moving along. I think the meeting on the 23rd is going to be good. I hope we have good turnout from the community. I think there's a lot of information out there and a lot of questions can be answered. Once we get that out, they have an opportunity to submit questions prior to the meeting, so we can hopefully answer those questions in the presentation as part of that. So moving right along at a snail's pace. Almost as fast as the park.
Almost.
Yeah.
Nice.
Almost as fast. I do have one other. The engineer, the surveyor, they're out currently surveying all the interconnections for this project, and they're getting that data to IEC or Dura for preliminary design to get a kind of cost on this project. So they've begun work.
Nice. Thank you. All right, any questions on that? No? All right, moving on to number 7, committee reports. Antelope Valley, no. Engineering?
Next Wednesday, right?
I don't think we're
No.
gonna have an engineering next Wednesday. I
Okay.
believe George and Tony will both be out of town.
So it won't be
To
next
BD.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe in September.
Finance?
Don't know.
Okay. It's on,
The next one would be in September, I believe. June, July, August, September. Yeah, it would be September.
it was on here, but I can't find it now. Okay, legislative?
We meet next month.
All right. Park and Rec, we meet next week. And Waste and Recycling.
We meet next week.
All right. So moving on to number 8, Staff and General Managers Report. Mr. Bartz?
I have nothing to report except for, with the passing of Charlie, I'd like to thank staff for all the effort they put into making it an event to where the family could feel comfortable and the community could come and see the community centers and be part of the kind of the celebration of life for Charlie.
Yes,
Yes, thank you very much. You did a
Absolutely.
great job.
you did.
All right, number 9, directors' reports. Kathy?
Same thing. Thank you for everybody for making that special for Charlie's family. They all were very appreciative.
Definitely.
And we'll miss him.
Mark?
Just ditto, just passing of Charlie.
All right, Deborah?
I did attend the PPHCSD meeting, that's the Association of San Bernardino Community Services Districts. And they went over climate change and some ideas of what can be done. Not really they would apply to our district yet. And I also didn't realize how deep he had touched me. He was a good man, and he'll be missed.
Thank you. And I have nothing to report, and I think everyone's pretty much said it. All right, moving on to number 10, correspondence. Ms. Ward, anything additional?
Nothing other than what's in the packet regarding movie nights. We did send out the notice of the water rate change. Also, the credit card fee going up to $3 and being reinstated online is up and running. And then starting our conservation outreach. So you'll see some of that stuff on Facebook popping up and Instagram on our website. And then, of course, we have our upcoming town halls. There will be a separate mailer sent out TBD after tomorrow's meeting.
All right. Any questions on that? Okay, number,
No complaints or any inquiries into those changes for billing and stuff?
I would say that there were some definite comments about the fee being $3 now. And then I haven't really heard anything about online because that's automated. I imagine there's some surprise, but I'm sure we'll hear about it and we can keep you updated.
good question. All right, so number 11, review of action items. Were there any prior meeting action items?
Yes, and those are all complete.
All right, and current meeting action items?
I have recorded none.
All right, so then we will set the agenda for the meeting July 20th. Does anyone have anything they would like to add?
Thank you.
No?
Not right now.
All right. So then we will adjourn this meeting of the Board of Directors in memory of our friend and colleague, Mr. Charlie Johnson. We are now adjourned at 6:39 PM.